The essence of war is deception. Even after some 2,500 years, this ancient and illustrious military principle is still in use today, now brought to life in countless ways through the power of rapidly advancing technology. One such example is the reconnaissance drone, so meticulously camouflaged that it evades detection by enemy nations. Some are not only shaped like birds, but replicate their flight mechanics so perfectly that even if spotted, no one would suspect what they truly are. In some cases, they even use taxidermied birds, making it virtually impossible to identify a bird-shaped drone flying at high altitudes while evading cameras. So, if an extraterrestrial civilization were to attempt reconnaissance of Earth, what would be the most suitable method? Perhaps a comet or an asteroid, so vast that no human would doubt its natural origin, flying on a perfectly calculated trajectory, designed to evade observation or tracking. In other words, a celestial body disguised as a reconnaissance craft. On July 1st, 2025, the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, also known as ATLAS, was operating as usual, scanning for celestial bodies that could threaten Earth. This NASA-supported project uses 5 telescopes, located in Chile, South Africa, Hawaii, and Spain, to capture hundreds of images each night. With over 1,200 near-Earth objects already logged in its database, notable incidents are rare. But this day was different. In 4 images taken by the Atlas telescope in Chile, a celestial object was spotted hurtling toward the solar system. Its orbit had an eccentricity of nearly 6, almost a straight line, and it was moving at 61 kilometers per second, 2 to 4 times faster than typical comets or asteroids. Temporarily designated A11PL3Z, the object's discovery was quickly reported to the International Astronomical Union's Minor Planet Center. Soon, a startling fact emerged. Data showed that the Zwicky Transient Facility in the US and other ATLAS telescopes had been detecting this object since June. The late discovery was due to A11PL3Z's path, passing through the densely packed center of the galaxy, an area most telescopes avoid due to overwhelming brightness. Even ATLAS, capable of imaging it, found it difficult to distinguish objects in the region. Fortunately, the preserved data allowed researchers to analyze the object. The results were shocking. It was identified as only the 3rd interstellar object ever detected, after Oumuamua and Borisov. NASA officially named it 3I Atlas. But what drew even greater attention was its bizarre trajectory. Already inside Jupiter's orbit when first spotted, it would pass through the orbits of Mars, the Sun, Venus, and Earth. As global observatories prepared for its close approach in a few months, a paper shook the scientific community. The author, Dr. Avi Loeb, Harvard's longest-serving astronomy department chair, and one of Time magazine's 25 most influential people in space in 2012. Published on July 21st, his paper carried a title that was enough to make headlines. Is the interstellar object 3I Atlas alien technology? The introduction delivered a chilling warning. The consequences, should the hypothesis turn out to be correct, could potentially be dire for humanity and would possibly require defensive measures to be undertaken. And that hypothesis was downright terrifying. The hypothesis in question is that the recent interstellar visitor to our solar system, 3I Atlas, is a technological artifact and furthermore has active intelligence. If this is the case, then 2 possibilities follow. First, that its intentions are entirely benign. And second, they are malign, or somewhere in between. If the first is true, humanity could simply welcome Atlas. If the second is true, the risk would be immense. Loeb referenced the dark forest hypothesis, the idea that civilizations remain silent to avoid being destroyed by more advanced predators. If an alien civilization sought to observe Earth without detection, Atlas could be their probe. And once close enough, they would confirm humanity's inferiority. If they were aggressive, as humans have been when colonizing less advanced peoples, the outcome could be catastrophic. Loeb's paper outlined 9 unexplained anomalies, suggesting Atlas might be an artificial object created by an extraterrestrial civilization. The orbital plane of Atlas nearly coincides with the ecliptic plane, but it is retrograde with an inclination of 175.11 degrees. The probability of this occurring is only about 0.2%. An orbital inclination of 175.11 degrees means that Atlas lies almost in the same plane as the ecliptic. At the same time, by approaching most of the prograde moving bodies of the solar system on a retrograde path, it can secure an optimal position for carefully observing planets while avoiding collision risks. If Atlas were a spacecraft built by aliens, such an orbit would be an extremely rational choice. Atlas is too large to be considered an asteroid. Using standard calculation formulas, Atlas's diameter is estimated to be about 20 kilometers. This is vastly larger than Oumuamua, which has a diameter of only about 200 meters. According to Professor Avi Loeb, the probability of such a large interstellar object entering the solar system is extremely small. For an interstellar object of Oumuamua's size to pass through the solar system, the probability is less than 1 in a million. In other words, Atlas is not a naturally occurring interstellar object, but rather something disguised as a huge asteroid to deceive humanity. No cometary outgassing activity is observed from Atlas. Normally, comets develop a tail-like gas cloud around them, as volatile materials evaporate under the sun's heat. However, for Atlas, only a faint shape was observed nearby, which the paper argued was insufficient to be considered definitive evidence of cometary activity. Possibly nothing more than noise from the observation process. Atlas approaches Venus, Mars, and Jupiter unusually closely. Atlas's peculiar orbit brings it within 0.1 AU of all 3 planets. The probability of such a multi-planet approach orbit occurring naturally is only 0.005%, or 1 in 20,000. Given that humanity can already collect scientific data from distances much greater than 0.1 AU, Atlas's orbit appears even more suspicious. It resembles a design intended to deeply analyze nearby planets, excluding Earth, whose habitability is already well known, much like an alien spacecraft surveying potential worlds. Atlas passes perihelion not between the Sun and Earth, but on the far side of the Sun. This 5th feature further supports Professor Avi Loeb's claim that Atlas is a deliberately engineered artifact. Perihelion is the point where a celestial body comes closest to the Sun. For humanity, this is the ideal time to gather the most data. Yet Atlas's trajectory takes it behind the Sun at this crucial moment, making observation physically impossible. Assuming interstellar objects pass through the solar system from random directions, the probability of this happening is only 7%. The optimal point for remaining gravitationally bound to the Sun by performing a reverse Oberth maneuver is perihelion. The more serious concern is that when Atlas hides behind the Sun, that moment becomes critical to determining whether it is a natural body or an artificial construct. An Oberth maneuver involves firing a spacecraft's engine at the moment its speed is greatest due to a celestial body's gravity, thereby gaining energy efficiently. If, at that same moment, the spacecraft instead performs reverse thrust, its energy drops dramatically, changing its path from an escape trajectory out of the solar system to an orbit around it. Such a maneuver would allow an alien spacecraft to begin reconnaissance or even invasion, without giving humanity any chance to respond. If Atlas reappears from behind the Sun moving at a much slower speed, it could signify the beginning of the end for human civilization. Atlas's radiant point made it harder to detect earlier. A radiant point refers to the point in the sky from which an object appears to originate. As explained earlier, Atlas passed through a densely populated region of space, making observation extremely difficult. Like a reconnaissance craft entering from the least guarded direction, In addition, Professor Loeb noted that Atlas not only had an orbit highly favorable for reaching Jupiter and Mars, but also approached them extraordinarily closely. Taking all these features together leads to a chilling conclusion. Coincidentally, Atlas came from a direction that made early detection difficult. Coincidentally, Atlas has an orbit ideal for observing planets. Coincidentally, Atlas has a perfect orbit for approaching multiple planets at once, coming almost collision close to Mars and Jupiter. Coincidentally, Atlas is hidden behind the Sun at the most critical moment. Coincidentally, Atlas seems to pass Earth at a distance, as if deliberately avoiding it. Coincidentally, Atlas is of enormous size. Can all of these coincidences really occur simultaneously? Mainstream scientists remain skeptical, arguing these anomalies could be coincidences or overinterpretations, and questioning whether something the size of Manhattan could be an actual spacecraft. But others insist the suspicious aspects of Atlas's path cannot rule out the possibility. The debate will end soon. Because Atlas is still hurtling toward Earth at incredible speed, expected to make its closest approach between October and December 2025. So is Atlas merely a miraculous interstellar object born of chance? Or is it truly a reconnaissance craft, meticulously designed by an alien civilization? One thing is certain. If humanity had the technology to disguise a probe as an asteroid and send it to a distant star system, it would almost certainly not be for peaceful purposes. This was Midnight Journey.